No, dead. They're all dead.
Mamma mia!
The following views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the producers, hosts, and or guests of the Bitter Marks podcast. We assume no responsibility for any errors or omissions in the content provided.
Listener discretion is advised.
Bitter Marks! Bitter Marks! Woo! What's up, Smooth Babies? Welcome to Bitter Marks. It's your favorite non-wrestling podcast coming to you every single Friday morning in audio form at bittermarks.com or wherever you get your podcast from, or in video form on our YouTube page. Just head on over to YouTube, hit that search box up. What do you call it? A search box? Let's call it a search box today. Search for Bitter Marks Podcast. Our channel comes up. Subscribe, review, do all that good stuff on, well, I guess you can't review. Just subscribe on our YouTube page. How about that? If you want to join this podcast live for some reason, we record Tuesdays live at 9:05. That's p.m. and that's Central Standard Time. Just once again, head on over to our YouTube channel. There's a chat in there. You can make fun of us. You can do whatever you feel like, really. Just join us. It's fun. You can ask questions. You can do whatever you feel like. And that's about it. What else? If this is your first time joining us and you don't want to join us live, you got questions, you can ask them. bittermarks@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of us. We will answer your questions occasionally. In fact, I'm going to check to see if we have any emails right now. Anyway, I'm one of the hosts of this show. My name is Sasha, and I'm joined by my dear friend, a legend. I've seen this man naked under a robe, helicoptering his own. No, I haven't. It's Peewee.
Wow, before you started making the Dark Side of the Ring references, I was like, when have you seen my manhood, and where are we going with this?
You know, for friendship of over 20 years, it's pretty odd that we've not seen each other's junk, right? Is that fair to say? We've been in locker rooms together.
Yeah, mainly because we've been in so many locker rooms together. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And by locker rooms, we mean like standing behind curtains to separate from other people.
I'd go outside the building, down the block, and in my car to go change. I was ashamed of my manliness.
Speaking of ashamed of our manliness, we're joined by the punctual prince of manliness and podcasting from parts unknown Illinois, private parts unknown Illinois. It's producer Tony.
What's up, everybody? And Helicoptering Manhood was my cover band for Manowar in the high school. So yeah, interesting.
I actually have a joke about helicoptering, but I call it the propeller. Like before I saw the dark side of the thing, but I've never told the joke in public because you got to have a little confidence to tell a joke like that, and you guys know that's not my game. So it's just sitting in this paperwork that I have downstairs. Ready to be done, but
I want to see the visual when you tell the joke as well.
Yeah.
There's a big visual.
Yeah, a big visual. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Is it the patented Sasha hands on head hip swivel?
No, we don't do that anymore.
That was a high school move that was done on a daily basis back in the day.
Yeah, I don't have those moves anymore. In fact, that's what won over my wife back in the day, and
that's how you got her.
Retired.
She's been sad ever since. I treated her like a flight attendant on a private jet, if you know what I mean.
Now, totally. I normally don't comment on your background picture because I know the audio people can't see it. But if you're only watching the audio and not watching the YouTube, it is absolutely worth checking out the YouTube channel this week just to see Tony's background picture that he chose. It's a totally unphotoshopped picture, right? Like that's a real picture.
Oh yeah, like if you Google search like Vince McMahon, I guarantee you it's going to come up.
Yeah, right. This is the I think it's a semi-famous picture of Vince with the shirtless and looking like patented 1999 2000 Vince with like the good Vince hair, and is shirtless, shredded, and has a giant chain around his neck. I think, was this a like workout magazine cover? Anybody
I think
confirm
this
that?
is just a daily basis, or this is what he looked like
This
on the
is a
plane
live
ride
look.
from hell.
I think this is his passport picture, actually. I think he got that developed at Walgreens. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, if I had a picture like that of myself, it'd be like on wallpaper, like literal wallpaper in my house for everybody.
I would love to have this as a like velvet picture. Like, remember those old school like velvet black framed pictures? But
like
that
the
Vince.
the hippie pictures, like the
yeah. They had a lot of them with like Elvis on them, but also like hippie stuff and Pink Floyd and whatever. And well, that's it for the podcast. I'm glad we did that.
It's not going to get better.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to get better. We are not prepared as always. Let's head on over to the chat room and see what's going on.
I hate these shows. I absolutely hate these shows.
See you, Comedy in the house. That's Tori Hanzo in the house. Bishop just in time, which makes me not like his reference there. Sebastian in the house wearing a sequin robe with nothing else. I mean, that's the theme of the show. That we should have all done that.
Agreed.
Like thinking of it now, that would have been a hell of a way to start the show. In fact, I have, it's not sequined. I just have a robe over there, so I'm not going to go put it on. Hey, guys, next week, I know you guys love coming to these Tuesday night shows live on our YouTube page, live at 9:05. That's p.m. and that's Central Standard Time. Well, forget everything you know about it next week because we're not going to be doing it live. Peewee's going to be gone.
Yeah.
We don't know how to live without Peewee. So I don't even know what we're going to do as far as the show goes.
I'm
Tony,
very interested to see how the show turns out. Absolutely.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Tony? What do
you want to do, Tone?
Do you want to host the show next week?
I'm thinking instead of Bitter Marks, I just do Scoop and Poop like solo, and like I'll do the YouTube live, but I'll just get two birds, one stone, just a hybrid podcast. That way I'll have a day off this week. That'd be great for me. But
next week's show, bring your fantasy football questions.
Yeah.
But also we don't know how to stream live, so like we can't.
Damn it.
So we don't know yet what's going to happen. We might not do a show next week. That's also a possibility.
I could break into Peewee's house and then just like turn his PC on, and then we just do it that way.
There you go.
I think you should just download the program. Might be easier. Or we can both break into Peewee's house and do a live show together. We should do a live show together. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to see.
If you want to drive down to Parts Unknown, buddy, come on down.
I think I might. I think maybe because there is a show, an open mic in your general vicinity. I'm kidding. There's nothing in your guys.
Don't get our hopes up. I was going to call off my plans.
I was actually going to just describe a picture that we saw earlier today on the Instagram as the new mega powers. But I just checked my phone, and we have an email here from our dear friend Ivica at Kim Jong-il-matic that goes with the picture that I was just going to show randomly.
I was hoping he got this in for tonight.
So he's got this email, and I have not read the email, so I apologize in advance if there are any words that I should not be saying publicly or phrases that may be offensive to women, children, minorities, majorities, anybody, really.
Have you read this yet?
No.
We absolutely cannot read Ivica's emails without proofreading them first.
I know. Subject line, truck stop Hulk Hogan.
I'm just gonna
says, what's up, Hulkamaniacs? I was eating breakfast at a truck stop, Denny's in Austinburg, Ohio, when I noticed this gentleman you see pictured. Like a real American, he was talking way too much, mostly Fox News tropes. Direct quote, you know something about Donald Trump? Long moment of silence. If I could ask one person about how to succeed at business, it would be Donald Trump. So, of course, I followed him out to the parking lot and asked him to take a picture with me. This is in front of his truck. I was really hoping he would have a fully customized Hulkamania Peterbilt or Kenworth, but alas, he drives a Volvo like me and all the other Euros and foreigners. Another sad day for America, so soon after 9/11. Hopefully, if he takes his prayers and says his vitamins, he can get his own truck soon and customize it with the colors of Hulkamania running wild all over the highways of America. Love, Ivica. Absolutely fantastic. Did you show the picture?
No, here it is right here. I was about to.
Oh, okay.
I was loading it up right now.
There it is. That's
There he is,
unbelievable.
brother.
That's unbelievable that a man looks like that in public.
That's the thing. Like, not only does he look like that in public, he's just a truck driver. Like, he's not putting on a show for anybody. He's not going anywhere and hanging out with anyone. This is just truck drivers are notorious for just sitting in their trucks alone. Like, he's just dressing up as Hogan for his own sake.
What do you think the better odds are here? That he has not heard of the Hogan racism thing, or that he's heard about it and fully supports it?
He heard about it, and then that's why he's such a huge fan. I wonder
And that's
if
when he
if
purchased
does
the
that
shirt.
to
Yeah.
pop all the lot lizards that he runs around, at the truck stops. Maybe he gets a little discount here and there if he lets him take a mustache ride. Who knows?
And Hanzo says Trucker Mania running wild. We also have great ideas here. Hanzo says get BDI to sub into the show next week. CU Comedy says they're going to sit in as a guest. And Colleen, our dear friend Colleen, will also join. So next week,
Get them all.
CU Comedy, Colleen, and BDI will be on the show as long as they can figure out how to stream it. This is amazing. I can't stop looking at this guy, by the way. Look at the mustache.
There's only one
The
thing
mustache is, yes, that's the most, like, dedicated part of this whole thing. Everything else can be taken off at the end of the day. He lives with that mustache.
Yeah.
Oh, he's definitely got a skullet underneath that.
I was gonna say, what do you
bandana.
think his hair looks like underneath?
It looks just like Hogan's. Yeah, just like Hogan's.
Is he wearing wrist tape?
No, that was going to be my next point. Is he didn't fully commit? That should be a red or yellow wristband. I think it's a wristband.
Okay, but the fact he has anything on his wrist is unbelievable.
Ivica, was the shirt cut on the back? Can he tear that off at any moment with ease?
Good question. Good question.
Wow. We got to find this guy. Like, we got to get him to be on the show next week with Colleen and BDI and CU Comedy. What else is going on? We talked about Megadeth last week. And then Dave Mustaine, after the Megadeth show, came out fully in support of anti-masks and the tyranny that is America that we live in. But then something cool happened. Metallica decided to play the Metro in Chicago on a 1 hour notice.
Wow.
The Metro, if you guys don't know, is a 1,100 capacity building or something like that. They have not played there since 1983. And they just said, we're going to charge $19.83 plus a 17-cent surcharge or whatever.
Okay.
It was $20.
Wow.
Just come stand in line, and you can only get one ticket. So you had to go in. You had to be proof of vaccination and all that stuff. And they played, and Tony, I sent you the message when this was happening because we are both Megadeth over Metallica fans. But after this week, it's kind of been the other way around. I've been watching all the videos and looking at all the pictures and everything. Have you seen anything from this show?
I saw a black and white picture of the concert last night. I didn't see any videos. I was kind of busy today. But
Man.
when you texted me that was going on, I seriously thought about just ditching work.
Yeah.
Going to the Metro and just shooting my shot. But there was one sticking point. My vaccination card was at home, and as you know, I would not have made it to home and then down to the Metro. So
yeah, that's a 3-day trip for you.
By horse, yeah.
I was in the same boat because I wanted to go, and I literally had just found out 5 minutes earlier that I had a couple stops that I had to make. So if I had nothing to do, I probably would have gone to it to at least try and get in. Don't know if I would have made it because it sold out very, very quick. The line had already formed. By the time I texted you, there was already a line.
Yeah.
It looked cool. They closed with Seek and Destroy. I think they opened with Whiplash. They played a bunch of older stuff that they don't play anymore, I guess. But there's all kinds of videos, and it's so weird seeing them play with just one stack of amps each. It's not a wall of sound. It's bare bones Metallica.
It's literally the biggest band in the world playing the smallest professional grade stage in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Sasha, you and I have been there dozens of times, if not hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And man, that would have been something, but it just didn't work out.
But then I woke up to even better news. The Fujis have reunited. Have you heard about this?
Oh, wow.
What? Wow.
We are going to see the Fujis November 2nd or October 2nd or something at the United Center. How about
They got
that?
Wyclef? They got Wyclef?
You're damn right they got Wyclef. They got the
Praz?
Fujis if they don't have Wyclef.
They got Praz?
They got somebody who looks like Praz. It's close enough. It's Skilo as Praz, I believe. So
Skilo on stilts because he's
Yeah.
short.
He's a little bit taller, yeah.
so I don't know what's going on with music nowadays, but I accept whatever is happening. Let older people reunite, and whatever's wrong with Dave Mustaine, whatever. I'm not going to talk about it. You said they lost a step.
There's a lot wrong with Dave Mustaine, but this podcast is not long enough to talk about it.
So let's talk a little bit about Gangrel then. How about that?
What a segue.
Great.
What a segue.
Great.
Speaking of sucking blood, I found this Gangrel story that was interesting. So recently they had Edge and Seth Rollins were feuding, and Edge did the bloodbath thing. Like the old Brood dropped blood on Seth Rollins, but it was like black blood or something or whatever. But it was an homage. And then like they had the match. Was it at SummerSlam where he came out partially to the Brood theme and then to his theme?
Correct, yeah.
And then so it turns out that like right before that stuff was happening, Gangrel was supposed to show up at AEW and do the Brood stuff. And I don't know if this is based on them having Christian, if that had anything to do with it, or if they were just like, bring in Gangrel or whatever.
More Brood.
So I found this story, and it's written a little bit weird. It's from WrestleFeed, and it's like an interview with Gangrel. So try and follow along here. But it's Gangrel says, AEW contacted me, and they wanted me to come in and do Dynamite. They were putting the entrance together. They were going to do the fire. They were putting the music together. They were getting it all together. When SummerSlam hit, I knew it was the final nail in the coffin. So when I got the phone call that they were going in a different direction, it's not their fault. It's just timing. I was so grateful and happy to be a part of that. Part of what? I don't know. Just a thought, I guess. They even thought about Tony Khan and everybody. I think it was Tony's idea to bring me in and do all of that. I was so grateful, so happy. But I knew deep down inside, I knew how things would go. I called Edge. He was like, hey, man, did you see it? I was getting ready to call you. Man, I'm so happy and honored to pay tribute. You worked so hard, and the Brood was a cool time in my life.
Son of a bitch.
I hope this helps you to get more money out of bookings and move some merch. I let him go, and he was so happy. I didn't know what to say. Then I go, yeah, it kind of cost me some work. He goes, what do you mean, buddy? I go, well, that other company over there, AEW, they were getting ready to do a thing. Whether it was a one-off or two-off, I was getting ready to do my entrance again. I was going to go through the fire. Not Edge, me, but I didn't tell him that. He got so quiet for what felt like an eternity. I was like, hey, you still there? He goes, man, I'm so sorry. If you had told me, I go, I didn't know. I just
how would
got
either
booked.
of them know? Right.
Yeah. He was like, I'm so sorry. It felt like he was going to cry. Probably would. Edge is a sensitive man. I was like, it's okay,
Canadian.
man. It's good. I work every weekend. I'm doing things. He felt so bad. He sent me pictures of his daughter with a jacket. I was like, no, it's cool, man. It was awesome. Love seeing you do that. He felt so bad. It was a weird timing thing. When it rains, it pours, but I understand. He told me he'd been working on it for 2.5 months. It wasn't an overnight idea for him. He planned it with Seth Rollins. They were going back 7 years in the making, so it was kind of a big deal for him, and he wanted to pay homage to me and the Brood. I truly believe that.
Sure.
No harm
Absolutely,
done.
yeah.
Thought it was a cool story, and I feel bad for Gangrel because we've talked so much good about Gangrel and like how good he looked the last time we saw him and stuff. And you know, you get a new respect for a guy like that when you see, you know, no offense to Warlord and Barbarian, but those guys couldn't move anymore. You know, Too Cold Scorpio, here and there bursts of speed or whatever. But Gangrel could still work. You know what
absolutely.
I mean?
So, did he like get the vampire teeth like surgically done?
I believe so.
Yeah. He lives like that vampire life.
Wow.
Yeah. He was married to Luna Vachon, and they were part of the that whole like vampire subculture or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because I mean, I know that that's a thing that the vamp people can do.
Yeah, I've seen MTV. I've seen MTV. I'm a vampire, right?
Vam people. That is the most PC way of saying vampires of all time. Yeah,
And
I just
the
thought.
episode name for this one. That's
Yeah,
for
right.
sure.
Justin Tuttle, King of Art, chimes in. He says the heat between Metallica and Megadeth is what's missing from wrestling. 30 years and they still hate each other. Love it. Speaking of Justin Tuttle, speaking of Jesse Tuttle, that's a segue, my friend. Me and Peewee were lucky enough to be a part of something recently that I think it was called Setting Up Camp CU Comedy. And so this was like a 22-minute little mini documentary on the Phoenix Twins.
Yeah.
Jesse and Justin. And basically, like, it started, them as a little kids. I think it was a picture of Jesse as a fat child. And then, like the wrestling stuff. And me and Peewee got to be a part of the wrestling stuff. We did a little commentary on one of the matches that we had put on YouTube recently. And then it went into their CU comedy stuff and like how they basically created this scene down there and everything. And it was just really cool. So we got to do this. It was actually the day after SummerSlam. So after driving to Tony's house and then just coming home, I had to wake up and drive back out there again the next day. 16-hour round trip,
That's right.
by the way.
That's right. We've been teasing this. This is that secret project that Sasha and I have been teasing.
I
for
was
the last
wondering
2 months.
what the hell you guys were doing. I mean, you guys were all like very hush hush about it. So okay,
I'm
That's cool.
way of the mindset of I don't like talking about like cool big projects like this that we don't really have control over them finishing, so stuff can definitely go wrong, stuff can get canceled, stuff can happen. I don't like talking about that kind of stuff until it's actually done and in the books, and even after it was recorded, there's nothing that says it's actually going to get published. So I didn't want to say anything about this until it actually came out, just for that sake, because if it doesn't come out and we promote the hell out of it, then it's all for nothing. That's my mindset on most of the things that I do.
And it was interesting. It was like it was a husband and wife duo. Is that correct? I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Dave and his wife, who has name I forgot how to pronounce it correctly, so I'm not going to try. But they were really cool. I guess they came up here to do a wedding somewhat nearby, and so they were like, "Yeah, if we can set something up." So
yeah, I think their story is the most interesting part of the whole thing. The director and his wife, like they're not directors, like they're not in the movie business. They're in the wedding photography business, and because they do wedding photography, they have nice cameras, and they decided to utilize those and start making documentaries.
Yeah, it was very, very cool, and they were very nice. I think we did maybe like 20, 30 minutes of just like filming stuff.
Yeah, if not a little
and then
bit
they
more,
probably took the good like 30 seconds that we gave and put it in there.
A lot of Sasha quotes and a lot of me nodding, right?
But yeah, it was I thought it was fun. I mean, like it was cool to be a part of something like that. I was a little nervous because like we don't do stuff like that, you know. That's actually the room, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, on the bottom right, that's the room that Peewee does the podcast from. And ever since then you've had issues.
That's true. Oh, that's true. Do they work for Suave? Did Suave just send in some rogue agents to sabotage our podcast?
CU Comedy says AAW wouldn't give them the rights to videos for the documentary. Glad we did almost die in their ring 9 times.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because they're like, they asked us if they could use the stuff from our YouTube page, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
We don't.
Sure, it's from the camera that I recorded on, but
it wasn't our show.
It's like,
it wasn't like we don't technically. We own you own the footage. It's your camera, but like we don't own the content of the show. And the last thing we want to do is get into legal trouble with the guy who does run that show. But at the end of the day, it is your footage. I think we're in the clear there.
Yeah, I did get served papers from Frankie the Face. So that's what I'm dealing with this week. But overall, it was cool. And obviously, I watched the whole thing. I didn't just watch us and then turn it off. Really cool stuff on there. I tweeted it out. I think I I don't think I put it on our Instagram, but I tweeted it out from my personal page and from the Bitter Marks page. So go check that out. If you don't use Twitter or whatever, just send me a message, email us, text me, whatever, and I will send you the link to that. It's very good watch and good stuff. Congratulations to those guys.
Yes, doing big things.
Justin says Dave and Gela. I just don't. Is that how it's pronounced? Gela?
Oh yeah,
I don't
give
know.
us the phonetic spelling in the chat, and then we'll say it that way.
Being someone named Sasha who spells his name Sasa, I feel weird about name stuff, and
Smart.
Yeah, I've been called Sasa my entire life. So, CU Comedy says one time we were driving to a show that Gangrel was on. Completely no sells everything we're talking about, by the way. One time we were driving to a show that Gangrel was on. He pulled up next to us with Randy at a toll booth and did his wide-eyed, mouth-open look to show the fangs. I assume he does that to everyone. You imagine seeing that at a toll?
Yeah, right.
Gangrel just drives by people and messes with them. Sebastian says the ninja has it right. I assume Hanzo. Oh yeah, Hanzo says Metallica no good record since '88. Sebastian, Metallica sucked since '91. They're like Dusty Rhodes if Forever had started in 1991. Sebastian, we need an anti-Dusty rant, a voicemail sometime soon.
Please.
It's been too long.
Yeah, it clearly has been too long.
All right, one thing I
What
noticed
else
before
we
we
got?
move on here, I'll take down the picture of us. But the other thing I noticed about the picture of the twins that I took, I just realized this now. I was showing the documentary to Steph earlier today because I knew that we were going to talk about it today. Today was the second time I've watched it, but I wanted to refresh my memory and I wanted Steph to see it. So I just had it playing downstairs while I was, relaxing before we started recording the show. And one thing that stuck out to me is how shredded that both Jesse and Justin were. Specifically Justin. Back in the day, Justin had a decent set of pecs on
in
him.
that picture,
a six-pack on him.
picture?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Glistening. Yes, that picture of him crossed arms. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was that he had a shaven chest and shaved arms. And now...
Did he look like Vince behind me right now?
Very close to how Vince looks. Yeah.
Very similar, yeah.
And now if you look at that picture of Justin, he's the one on the left, he's definitely stopped shaving those arms, right? That's something that you stop doing after you get out of wrestling. Did you ever you never shaved your arms for anything, right?
Shave my arms? No. I worked under like a long sleeve shirt and a blanket.
He's Serbian. His arms would
It'd
like
grow
have
back
a 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah.
He'd shave at noon
Seriously.
and be back by 3 o'clock. Okay, so the reason that I bring this up is because when I was trying to get my spot in TNA back in 2003 and 2004, maybe even a little bit before then, my arms were extremely hairy, and it was picking up on television when I do recordings for Bert and the guys down there to the point where I don't think anybody asked me to do it, but I after watching a couple of the tapings, I was like, you know what, I have to do something about this. So one day in my college dorm, I went to the shower and just started shaving my arms. Something I'd never even considered doing, something that I'm sure is very weird to the people who are listening to the podcast, but in wrestling, it's a common thing. Can you confirm that?
I can. But my question is, you're a ref again.
Look at this.
He did it.
He's shaving them arms, baby.
Did it today for the first time in 10
Yes.
years. I want to do it for we have that big show in October, October 8th, I think. I should be better at promoting these shows. Whenever the Ming and Barbarian show is. That show will be recorded. I want to get in I don't want to shave my arms the day before and have them all nicked up and beat up, so I want to get in a rhythm, get them smoothed out. And I also need to start tanning. I got to get that going. I got to get my look going. So that's why this was fresh on my mind. When I looked down at Justin's arms and saw that the hair was there, I was like, oh, that's different. The person who was most angry about me shaving my arms today was my wife. The shaved arms, it's a what is it? It's a nuisance for me, but it's terrible for her. Like rubbing up against somebody who has shaved arms or who hasn't shaved their arms in a day or two, and the stubble on them, like it's almost like a burn. She hates it. She was
like a
pissed.
fucking cheese grater.
Yeah, when I
you're
told
just
her I was going
rubbing
to
up
shave
on
my
you.
arms again, she thought this was over and done with and everything was behind her. But nope, I brought him back.
It's kind of weird that you like shave your arms to not be noticed, but if you're in public, that's all everybody will notice.
I don't think so.
But in the wrestling
I don't
world,
think that's
you're
true.
like,
Looking at this picture, I want to say that Justin still does, or Jesse still does shave his arms.
oh yeah, he says it. He said, I still shave my arms
okay,
just in
there you
case
go.
I need to make my big indie comeback doing a run-in during a match Dan is reffing. Hey, we could see a Tweak versus Haku match, potentially.
Oh, man.
Yeah, now we're talking.
I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, Justin's got a great question. How many times do you nick your wrist elbow or your wrist bone, elbow bone while shaving them? That's the problem. This part right here, where your thumb meets your wrist, this little hole. Try shaving that thing.
You know,
I
we
will
really
not.
need that ball scraped sponsorship right about now.
Please, give me something.
Yeah. So have you ever cut yourself?
No, it's pretty easy. No, I've been fine.
I
I'm
cut
imagining you
myself.
using like a fucking straight razor, like old school barber style.
A lot of guys just use like Nair or the equivalent, but I never liked that. My skin is too sensitive. It would just
Yeah, doesn't that like fucking burn it off? It's like crazy,
essentially,
right?
No, I always would just shave it. The first time I did it, I started from scratch. Like picture like regular like leg hair. I mean thick arm hair, but I started with a razor. And when I did that in that dorm,
Oh no!
it was fine. I didn't cut myself, but it literally took me like 2.5 hours to get through it all because it wouldn't do anything. Now for my beard, I have an electric razor. And I was like, oh, let's go to town here, like a lawnmower up my arm. I was done in 10 minutes. It was great.
I got Nair recently to try and Nair my back because I look like like that one Boricua. And so, like, I got this, like, scrubber thing. I got some Nair, and I've never used Nair before, but I heard, like, horror stories, so I'm trying to be, like, frugal with it or whatever the right word is. And, like, I did it, and then, like, my back just has patches now because, like, I didn't get everything, you know?
Amazing.
And then, like,
amazing.
2 weeks later, it was back to being a Boricua. So, like, I don't know. It's, I'm anti-shaving is what I should say. But I am pro.
I will say,
shirts.
when I was in college, I was living with 2 girls at the time, just friends. But I spent my 2.5 hours in the shower shaving my arms. I come out and I'm like, ladies, you got to check this out. Look at how smooth this is. This is awesome. And I could see the one girl was like intrigued, but wasn't really interested. But like a light bulb went off in the other girl's head. She's like, holy fuck, you can shave your arms? And she was like, she wasn't like a hairy girl, but she definitely had like hairy arms. And within 2 days, she had shaved her arms. Like she was totally on board with this.
Peewee
That's
over
also
here.
what
it
Ric
was
Flair said to the flight attendant, I believe.
Check out these
yeah.
arms, ladies. You wanted content.
I got the
from this
baby's
thing.
arm.
You got it.
We want content. We're going to talk NXT 2.0. How about that, gentlemen?
I know nothing about
We don't have to. I just wanted to show you. Last week on NXT, there was a 4-way match for the world title because Samoa Joe is injured and had to give up the title after.
Why do you say that in quotes? What's the real
A
story?
lot of people don't believe it because NXT was starting this 2.0, so they're headed in a new direction, new set, new everything, new superstars, like a whole different direction. Samoa Joe recently won the title, has not defended it yet, and they're like, oh yeah, he got hurt. His elbow hurts. And so they were having a 4-way match to crown the champion or whatever.
Okay.
And one of those guys in the match was LA Knight, former, what was his name? Eli Drake.
Oh, yeah.
So to start the show,
LA Knight. What a terrible name. That's the name of, isn't that the name of a shoe from the 90s?
British Knights and LA Gear, if you combine them, yes.
Yeah. You'd find those at like
I'll take it. That's good
at
enough.
the dollar store. LA Knight shoes. Yeah.
So the show starts off with LA Knight talking to a guy that no one has ever seen before named Braun Breaker. And he looks like Mojo Rawley, who has been cut recently. And he's like, I just want to go prove myself. Like that's his opening thing or whatever. Now, it turns out the guy is not half bad, but it's a weird way to start the show. And for some reason,
before you say who he is, do you want to have Tony guess who he is?
Yeah, but in a second.
Okay, I just don't want you to say it.
So LA Knight is like, hey, I'm going to teach you something, young man. Let's get out there. To open the show. Meanwhile, he has a world title opportunity at the end of the show.
Amazing.
Proceeds to lose to this guy in 4 minutes. and then still is in the world title match later.
That's 2.0, baby.
So 2.0 it was weird to start things off. Also, it looks like it's in a gym, which is great. I love that. There's no guardrail. The crowds are sitting in like a circle. It's a
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a new experience, and I kind of like
That's
it.
crazy.
It's not that
yeah,
bad.
I like that too.
But Braun Breaker it looks like he is going to be
2Ks. 2Ks
Yeah.
in this name.
And it looks like he's going to be the next guy they push, because at the end of the show, Tommaso Ciampa ended up winning the NXT title. And to end the show, this guy walked up to him, congratulated them, and then they had a stare down. So in one night, this guy beat LA Knight, who was in the world title match, and then is basically in a program with the current world title.
Jeez.
Producer Tony, can you guess who this guy, his dad is? And I will give you a minute, because I'll say something else.
Okay.
Kyle O'Reilly was also scheduled to be in that main event match, and they took him out without telling anybody, and they put in another guy named like Von Wafer or something. That's not his name.
Wow,
I think that guy used to play for the Houston Rockets, but it's like Von Draper or Von something. Maybe Von Breaker with 2Ks. I don't know. But that guy, Von Breaker, is Bo Beverly's son of the Beverly Brothers.
Oh, wow, okay. They're just doing nothing but football guys and second generation guys, and if you're both, you're going straight to the top.
And so, do you want to guess who this guy's dad is, Producer Tony?
All right, so he is totally jacked. I can see that from this very small picture that Peewee has up there.
I can make it bigger.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Well, he looks like he's a darker haired gentleman. He's wearing a singlet. I'm gonna say he's a Steiner kid.
Wow.
Look at this. Which Steiner?
Well, let's go, Rick. He's Rick Steiner's kid.
That's the smart one. That's the smart way to go.
Did you know this?
No.
How did you pick Rick Steiner?
He's wearing a goddamn singlet and he's freaking
It's the singlet,
jacked.
right?
Out of the history of wrestling, you picked the correct guy.
You got to think about the age too. Like if they had a kid, I'm sure the kid was probably in his mid-20s, early 30s. That kid looks like he is, and he's just absolutely ripped.
That's a crazy pick.
Well, anyway,
but yeah, it's the exact same. It's the exact same Steiner. Maybe not the exact same one, but a very similar Steiner singlet.
The
to
singlet
what they wore in the early 90s.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And his brother is Orange Cassidy. How about that? Wait a minute.
That can't be true. Tony looking dead into the camera going, oh.
The really interesting part, they did not mention that he's Rick Steiner's son. Like, apparently that's not an important detail here. And Peewee, what do you think about that? What do you think about the no-sell that they're doing there? Like it, not like it? Kind of weird.
I'm shocked by that, but I mean, it makes sense considering they're not using the Steiner name. But then why aren't you using the Steiner name?
Yeah.
I don't know. Jesse in the chat, CU Comedy, says they fired Braun just so they could name this guy Braun. That is a great point. Why would you name this guy Braun?
That is a terrible name, too.
It's so weird, like you said, not naming him Steiner. It's like they want to not be a wrestling company, but remain a wrestling company. But they don't want anything to be associated with like wrestling before.
I don't get it.
Yeah, who knows? I guess they're not a wrestling company. But whatever. Let's move on. Let's move on to Dark Side of the Ring, gentlemen. It's here. It's back. This week was the first episode. And they started off with possibly the best episode they've ever done. Something we talked about a couple weeks ago and had a lot of fun talking about. And I'm not sure that we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it today.
Yeah.
But the Dark Side of the Ring premiered the Plane Ride from Hell. And I don't know. Where do you want to start things off here?
Well,
I have zero preference.
They got one of the flight attendants, which is, I mean, I don't think they could have done this episode without having.
That's a good point.
A flight attendant or somebody that was working the plane, like not with the group. You know what I mean?
But it sounds like they got the main one. Like there were, according to the story, there were a couple different flight attendants, but only one had to deal with the boys in the back, and the other one was dealing with like Vince and Linda and whatever they were doing at the front of the plane,
Yeah,
never
and
to
Terry
be seen
Runnels
again.
for some reason is sitting up with
Right.
Vince and Linda up there.
Do you think that if they didn't talk to her and did this episode, that the people who got in trouble would have gotten in trouble? Or was it based off of like being able to see the distressed look in this lady added to it?
I think it definitely added to it, but it's based on the way the world is right now. I think either way, once these stories got out to the general public, these stories have been around forever. But once these stories got out to the general public, I think the backlash was going to be there no matter what, especially with what fucking Tommy Dreamer was saying. I don't think there's any way you could spin that, whether you have the flight attendant on the show or not. I don't think Dreamer comes off good.
I'm going to defend Tommy Dreamer, so we'll have a discussion in a second. I'm not a man that often defends Tommy Dreamer. I wasn't a fan of him as a wrestler, but okay. Well, we talked about this before.
This should be good.
We talked about this before. Plane ride from hell. A bunch of stuff happened on the plane. It was a WWE chartered plane. Blah blah blah. Some stuff that I don't think we mentioned. This plane was delayed for 7 hours on the ground with everybody remaining.
That's really the genesis of it all, right?
Yeah. And I didn't remember saying that originally or knowing that.
That was the first I'd heard that tip. I knew it was an overseas tour. I knew that it was the coming home after an overseas tour. They were all excited to be coming home, but they also have this flight over the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean to get home, so they have a ton of time to kill. It made sense when you add an additional 7 hours on the tarmac.
Yeah, double what it's supposed to take.
And this was
to get home.
After the trip was over. This was the plane ride home. So everybody's like ready to get the fuck out of this country. You know, I want to go home. I want to sleep in my own bed. And then like 7 hours.
And they ran out of alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
The liquor cart 3 times. And my
Before they
favorite
took
part
off.
was when the guy goes, how often does that happen, that the liquor cart runs out of alcohol? And she's like, I've never seen one alcohol cart run out ever. Before then or since then.
And she mentioned, you know how like the airplane bottles are the little like, you know, little shot ones? They had full-sized liquor bottles.
And
so,
they were
like,
just taking the bottles themselves.
Yes. They were self-serving. Yes.
And add on.
I'm going to, before we go on, I'm just going to leave the word allegedly up here.
Yeah. That's
probably a good call. Yeah.
Lots of people allegedly dropping H-bombs in each other's drinks.
Yeah.
Michael P.S. Hayes.
H-bombing everybody.
Yeah.
Scott Hall completely out of it. The Michael P.S. Hayes stuff, I didn't laugh. So when they showed the like Xbox cutting the thing, and they go, everyone popped. That got me.
That was one of my favorite parts of the show is the reenactments.
Yeah.
Is that there's no way X-Pac jumps on the plane as X-Pac.
He's
like in the shades, like crotch chopping. They pan by the guy who was supposed to be Austin at one point. Like they only showed this guy one time, but they showed him a bald guy with like that blurry vision that they show the flashbacks in. And in his seat, they just pass by the side, and in his seat, he's doing this. You know what I mean? Raising his hand to the ceiling like he's doing the oh hell yeah thing. Like anytime that they want to hammer home who a guy is, they just do their pantomime movements from the ring, but in real life on a plane or wherever they're at.
I thought it was hilarious, and poor Jim Ross. Like I don't normally care about Jim Ross, but you could tell he does not want to talk about this. He hated being a part of it. He hated being the one to try and like corral everybody from doing all the stuff that they were doing. Oh, all right, so we're not going to talk about everything that happened. You can obviously watch the episode. We talked about it also a couple weeks ago, but the big thing that happened this week is the ongoing cancellation of Tommy Dreamer and Ric Flair. So that we will talk about a little bit. So it all stems from Ric Flair basically wearing just a robe, coming out, and his baby Ric Flair,
Lil Nate
is exposed. He's doing the helicopter, aka the propeller. I mean, this is all good fun in my eyes. What do you guys think?
God damn it!
Oh yeah, you guys have jobs to keep. I guess I'll keep going. All right, so it obviously what we're talking about here is, and of course we have the allegedly sign up there, but it all leads to Ric Flair cornering one of the flight attendants in the back. And is it sexual assault? Is the story real? Is the story not real? Who do you trust and why? Tommy Dreamer goes to defend Ric Flair. And honestly, I didn't see a lot wrong with what Tommy Dreamer was saying until the end part, where he basically called her out for the for accepting the settlement. Like, that was a stiff line from him. Like, oh, well, why wouldn't she fight this in court? The rest of the time, he kind of seemed like just like a guy talking about wrestling stuff. That kind of seemed like when it became more personal. In my opinion, I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
Only watched it once. But that's kind of like where I
do agree that that was the most ridiculous line that came out of Tommy Dreamer's mouth. I do think there were plenty of other ridiculous lines that came out of his mouth, but saying that is an excuse as to...
I think
boys
that's what
will
got
be
him in
boys,
trouble.
proves
you know?
something.
It was that old thing, boys will be boys,
Because Rob Van Dam said the same thing, just kind of either more blunt, less not taking a side, but just being like, sadly, that's the way that how things were back then. Well,
that's fine. That's commenting on how the wrestling world was back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
That's not saying that the actions were fine, but the RVD stating that in 2021, referring to back then and saying, well, that's how it was. That's fine. That's just stating facts, allegedly. Dreamer is making excuses, and he's trying to paint Ric Flair in a different light in 2021. What Ric Flair, what Dreamer said versus what RVD said are two totally different things.
Yeah, I did like that Rob Van Dam was like, the Ric Flair situation was like the high spot, is what he called it. Like, they were all waiting for him to come out with the robe.
And that's the part that I don't mind. If you're Flair, it's not great. This probably isn't going to sound great, but if there's no women around, I don't care. Helicopter all you want. Some of the guys will probably think it's hilarious. This is your hero growing up, and now your hero is waving his junk around the locker room, and he's doing like vintage what you imagine Ric Flair doing at a party. Ric Flair's doing it in front of you. Yeah. But when you involve innocent bystanders, male or female, in there, then it's a different issue.
Yeah, and because like Terry Runnels, even, I mean, she's in a lot of this, and the thing that she keeps being told, because they're saying some horrible stuff. Brock Lesnar exposed himself to her. What was the other stuff? Dustin serenading her,
singing
on the phone.
on the speaker. Yeah,
and everybody just tells her, no, sell it. Like, that's how you deal with it in the wrestling world. No, sell it. Because if you make a big deal about it, it's going to be made even bigger of a deal. But she's in the wrestling world, so she's kind of, sad to say, but used to it or whatever. Whereas, flight attendants are not really, granted, they work on this, jet, whatever, that gets sports people on, and stuff happens. Like, the lady even said that, it's sports stuff, and they don't want to say what happens on the plane because they're trying to keep things private, whatever. But they're probably not used to a Ric Flair in that situation. Honestly, I don't have a problem with the situation. I would have a problem if it happened now, because you can't do that now, right? Back then, you don't. It sucks, but that's how it was then. I'm not defending it. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, but it was.
I was going to say, clarify your statement, please.
Yeah, let's hopefully draw a line in the sand here.
No, but the thing that's weird to me is it's whose word are we taking on this?
And that's the thing, is, okay, this is all secondhand information coming from a plane ride that had 3 carts of liquor, H-bombs, who knows what other. There were syringes in the freaking backs of the goddamn the seats. Like, everybody on that plane was probably altered in some way, shape, or form. And you have a woman here that says that this happened. And how can you, like, discourage that? How could you say, like, oh, no, you're wrong? She was probably the only sober person on this goddamn plane. And, drunk people do a lot of weird things.
100%.
That's all I'm saying. Is I have a hard time believing a plane ride full of inebriated wrestlers when we have a sober woman just trying to work her damn shift, and you got allegedly Ric Flair doing the old helicopter with Lil Nate.
I agree with you. Like, I'm not saying that we can't trust this lady or that we shouldn't trust this lady or anything like that. I just think more needs to come out from this situation. Like,
What more do you want? What else do you want?
Well,
video?
No, but right now it is Ric Flair saying, "I've never forced anyone to do anything." Right? But it's Ric Flair. And it's if you would have told me that Ric Flair is a sexual predator before any of this, I would have been like, probably checks out, right? He's known, allegedly, he's known as this like wild guy and drinking and partying and blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
it makes more sense that he would be, in a little shady instead of like Bill Cosby, who like out of the blue, everybody's like, yeah, this guy raped everybody. Right? That's the other thing is like, I have not heard one other person ever, and maybe it's coming, so who knows? But I haven't heard another lady say, yes, Ric Flair did this to me also.
Okay. You're just saying you want more proof of before we cancel Ric Flair altogether.
Because this lady is
make sure that he is guilty of whatever.
Yeah, and this lady is not
I understand
a saint either. This lady is someone who
I didn't want to bring this up. I don't think this matters at all.
Well, I'm just saying
you can if you want, but I don't think it matters at all. I think
it matters in the character of people. Like if we're judging Ric Flair based on his character, this lady was a burglary suspect. There was $1,000 reward out for her because her and I believe it was her husband or something. I'm trying to read it right now. Also a jewel thief. At one point,
to me, this means nothing. You can't bring her character at an event that has nothing to do with this specific event. That doesn't. Let's say she did rob a bank. Let's say she killed 9 people. I don't care. That doesn't mean she's any more or less likely to be abused by Ric Flair.
I agree, but like, what's the proof on the Ric Flair side? You have Tommy Dreamer saying nothing happened. You also have this lady saying Dustin Rhodes stopped the situation, but then you have another stewardess saying Dustin Rhodes like groped her and like said crazy things to her. And I
don't know. It's a gray area. No, I don't want to jail Ric Flair for this without having concrete evidence, but at the same time, at a certain point in the gray area, you need to make a line. You need to come to some sort of conclusion, and based on all the information that is out there, you have to side with the woman here.
I think this is the last thing I'll say about this. If the allegation was true, and we've seen this throughout the past 5 years with the Me Too movement and all that stuff. If it happened once, it probably happened more than once, and then we'll hear about it. So we're not judge, jury, and executioner here. It was an interesting episode of this goddamn wrestling show. Ultimately, it's he said, she said right now, and I'm not discounting what she said.
Yeah, me too. And that's by the way, I'm trying to kind of play devil's advocate here.
I know we're trying to have a good podcast here, right? That's what the majority of this is. We all think that this is a terrible situation for everyone involved, Rick included.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this lady's a liar. I'm also not saying Ric Flair is guilty. I'm saying there needs to be more that comes out from this. More could
for us to make a decision, but it's also not on us to make a decision about this.
Yeah,
it's none of our business. This is the same as every other topic that we talk about here. We're not going to critique WWE and how they perform backstage. We're not going to do the same thing here. We're not going to make judgment on a story that we don't have all the details on. We can't do that.
And so, I mean, like, all right. So Tommy Dreamer takes the brunt of this, by the way.
Yeah, he got it pretty bad. Yeah.
Got it worse than Flair.
Worse than Flair. So he's off of Impact, at least suspended indefinitely. Some of his bookings have been taken away. One of Flair's bookings got taken away as well. WWE had the cartoon of Ric Flair exposing himself in the robe up until this week. They just took it off, which, by the way, it made it to Peacock perfectly fine through all the filters that they were putting up there or whatever. But now, all of a sudden, for some reason, that thing comes off. Scott Hall and Dustin Rhodes were kind of tough to take in this one. And it's interesting because we see them now where they're different people than they were back then. But yeah, it's crazy stuff. The Terry Runnels stuff was crazy. My wife is very old-fashioned, and I told her about this story, and you know what? I'm not even going to get her canceled.
My favorite line of the whole thing was the little snippet of Scott Hall that they played. They didn't get him for an interview. It was probably an interview he did years back. But he was like, yeah, somebody must have H-bombed me because I've been drinking and taking pills like my entire life.
Yeah.
And I've never been that wasted. So it was just a funny line, I thought.
Bishop brings up a great point. Over international waters, anything goes. So we could just end it there. Oh, good question by CU Comedy. Have you guys, not naming names, seen anything sketchy like this in a locker room before? I know, Peewee, you had brought up a sketchy situation before.
I did?
Yeah. But I haven't. No. I don't know. Nothing comes.
I'm trying to think of what you're referencing.
I can't say it because it will.
Okay. Did I say it on this podcast or just to you personally?
No, you said it on this podcast, and then you had asked me later if I knew what you were talking about, and I said no, and then you told me the entire story. This is great podcasting, though.
Yeah, we're going a little long here.
Yeah, we were going to do Vince Theater. Tony, you don't want to do Vince Theater?
I think we should save that for the Smooth Babies next week when it's not live on on YouTube here. So maybe we might need to I might need to take a couple breaks in between the Vince Theater, so it might be heavily edited.
All right, that makes sense to me. Anything else you guys want to talk about this week? AEW signed the estate of Owen Hart, if that's how you want to call it, which is interesting.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah, they Martha Hart agrees. They're going to have an Owen Hart Memorial Tournament in AEW. Very interesting stuff because she won't do anything with Vince. I still think that she thinks that it was Vince's fault. I mean, that's kind of what we saw from the Dark Side of the Ring. Like, it was his fault that Owen is dead. So they're going to have a tournament and give out an Owen Award at some point in the year.
They have all sorts of stuff playing. They've announced action figures, these in video games. They've got T-shirts. Wow. They've got everything. Yeah.
So AEW has been able to get Owen Hart, CM Punk, all these people who are jumping over to their side. They're having their biggest show ever, I believe, tomorrow. There's supposed to be over 20,000 people at the Grand Slam Arena in New York, where they have the U.S. Open of tennis, I believe. Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. I don't know. There's a bunch of other big matches on there. And I don't know. Do you think Bray Wyatt is back this week?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I hope not. They've been using way too many WWE guys as of late.
I feel like he's the only guy left of worth maybe for the company. Like currently, WWE might fire everybody tomorrow, and maybe there'll be more people. But all right, well, whatever. That's it for the show this week, gentlemen. Sorry it got too stiff at the end over there. Oh, that's a poor choice of words in this situation. Anyway. Next week, Pee-wee's not here. We're not here live. Me and Tony will try and do something on the side, and hopefully we won't get canceled by then. Anyway, what's making me bitter this week is the word seemingly. Seemingly every goddamn podcaster, broadcaster, maxcaster, anybody with the word caster in their name uses the word seemingly all the time. And we are probably guilty of it as well on this podcast. But goddamn Suave on the STF Underground podcast uses it like 6 times a show. And every time I hear it, I just get angrier and angrier. And now I hear what's his name? Excalibur says it all the time. All these other podcasts use it. It's like the the crutch word that everybody seemingly uses just to like make you sound better or whatever. And I hate it. Anyway, producer Tony, what's making you bitter this week?
I'm bitter that Steve Blackman wasn't on the goddamn plane ride from hell. It could have been him, like, wrestling Mr. Perfect. He could have like bumped up against the emergency door and got sucked out into the Atlantic Ocean. That would have been great with me. So I'm mad about that.
If Steve Blackman was on that plane, there would be no story to tell. Everyone would be just sitting in their seats, sober as a mule. Peewee, what's making you bitter this week?
I'm going to go short and sweet this week. I'm just going to say never meet your heroes. It's always a disappointment.
New episodes of this podcast drop every Friday morning in audio form at bittermarks.com or Tuesday nights in video form on YouTube. Join us while we record in the YouTube chat Tuesday nights live at 9:05. That's p.m. and that's Central Standard Time. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at bittermarks. Email us, bittermarks@gmail.com. And last but not least, buy our shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/bittermarkscom. That's C-O-M as in Mr. Perfect. Peewee, producer Tony, all the smooth babies. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
I really regret paying off the FDT sign off because now I have nothing at the end of this thing.
Bye.